The James Show Podcast.
Memorial Day weekend is coming up, and we're expecting 45 million people to be on the roads in Texas. And I hear a lot of belly aching about how bad the drivers are here. And look, if you just go through the local news outlets right now, you could probably find about 10 stories of people in the last week who've gotten in serious wrecks or died. There was some idiot that caused a wreck on the tollway one day last week because they were street racing, and some guy ended up going the wrong way. How do you end up going the wrong way on the tollway? You didn't jump over the median. Do you have to go down the ramp to do it? I don't know, man. People are just incredibly insane. Like a handful of people are insane on the roads. But are we bad drivers? I don't think so. Now, I grew up just outside of here in a small town, and I always wanted to get out and see the world. I moved all the way to Dallas, and then I moved all the way to Oklahoma, and then all the way to Louisiana, and then all the way back. So, needless to say, I've seen the whole world. You know, I've been far and wide. But no, I've gotten to live in a few different places, and I got to spend a lot of time in some other cities for work-related reasons, and see what the locals there say. And everywhere I've gone, everywhere I've hung out for a long period of time, New York, D.C., about 8 places in Texas, and then one town in Oklahoma, New Orleans, and Louisiana. Everyone says 3 things. All the locals, I should say 3 things. Oh, if you don't like the weather here, just wait 10 minutes. It's like, no, that's what we said back in Texas. Oh, no, we mean it here in Oklahoma. Okay, well, then you move to Louisiana, they say the same thing. When I go for like a week at a time for my job in New York City, they said the same thing. So if everywhere says the same thing, then that's nothing special about where you live. That's just what weather is. But if you don't move around, how do you know? The second thing everyone says about their hometown is this place is like a magnet, or this place is like a yo-yo. People leave, but they always come back. They can't escape it. Well, no, that's everybody's hometown, because that's where your family is. That's where your friends are. That's where your business connections are. That's where your job opportunities are. That's where, like, if your uncle starts building houses and he needs a guy to frame it and you just need a summer job because you got laid off, that you can. Yeah, of course every town's like that, but there's nothing special about your town like that. That's everybody's hometown. That's where everybody, wherever their mama lives, basically, is a yo-yo to them. And so that's something that people have said everywhere I have moved. But the number 3 thing is the drivers here are the worst. Everywhere I've lived, people said that. Now, I thought that was the truth when I was growing up out in East Texas in Bug Tussle, and it kind of made sense. It's like, no, man, we don't have these big fancy roads like they have in the big city, like in Dallas, when they have these big mix masters and interchanges, and hell, they got freeways and everything. But like where I grew up, I don't mean to like oversimplify it here, but like where my kids go to school now, you know how many stoplights we have in the whole town? 0. We have a 4-way stop sign that has some blinky lights on top of it. That's the closest we get. And so we naturally assume, well, we must be terrible drivers. We don't even get the full complement of the driving experience like you people in the big city. And then I moved to the big city, and people in Dallas were like, this place is the worst. People are so rude here, and everyone's in a big hurry, and everyone thinks they can go 90 miles an hour just because they paid 75 cents to get on the tollway. And I was like, oh, that's like the opposite of what everyone said when I was growing up. And then I moved to Oklahoma, same thing. Moved to New Orleans, same thing. Hanging out in New York, same thing. Hanging out in D.C. They may have a case, actually, in D.C. Those were terrible drivers, and the road system was terrible, and the traffic was terrible, and the beltway was terrible. So D.C. may actually be right. Some place is right. One place where they say that is actually right. But for the rest of us, that's just something everybody says about their hometown. And actually moving around, spend a lot of time in Houston and Austin and Bug Tussle and these other places. Drivers here are pretty good. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think I might be making some people mad. They'll be like, hang on a second, how dare you say the drivers here are good? I just got rear-ended yesterday in the IKEA parking lot. Shut up. Go live in other places. There really are worse drivers here in other places. People here are actually really polite. And when you get off the freeways, people will let you go at a 4-way stop, you know? I really hate it when people gripe about it in my hometown because they're so nice, it's a problem. Like, they're so deferential. Like, we'll sit at the 4-way stop in Bug Tussle. We'll just sit there and wave at each other and trying to get everyone else to go because we're so damn nice. I think Dallas is even better drivers there because we're not so nice. Because if there's a 4-way stop, boy, that'll keep moving. If you don't want to go, fine, I'll go. And when it's time to get on the freeway, if there's some guy that is coming down the ramp at you, well, he better be able to either gun it and get in front of you or wait his damn turn if he doesn't feel like gunning it, right? And so we're actually really good. Some of it might come across as rude if you're not used to it, or if you have to sit in it every day and all of your negative driving experiences happen to be in the same metropolitan area, then I can see why you would walk away with the idea that we're terrible drivers here. But I don't think we are. Now, coming up next, I'm going to address this other weird quirk about human behavior when it comes to driving. There's surveys where they go ask people, are you an above average driver? How many of them you think say, yeah, I'm an above average driver? It's 98%. 98% of you, if asked, say you're an above average driver. Well, 48% of you are wrong, just mathematically speaking. And I'll give you a little secret of the pros. I'm in that 2%. I know I'm not an above average driver. I'm a below average driver. And that's all right. That doesn't make me not safe, or it doesn't make you better than me, but it does make me a little more self-aware, and I'll make my case. But tell me, are you an above-average driver? Because watch, you're going to get people calling in, I don't know, people don't use, I always use my turn signal. I never use my cell phone when I'm driving. I'm always got both my hands on the wheel. Liar. We all use our cell phones while we're driving now. I use my cell phone to get to Las Colinas Country Club. Why? Because I asked my phone how to get here. What am I supposed to do? Ignore it? Oh, I always use the Bluetooth option. Yeah, you never get a call, never pick it up or decline it or go through your Twitter. You're perfect. Good for you. That must be great. I hope you don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. I am among the worst. I'm always eating food. I'm texting on my phone. Sometimes I'm actually looking at directions, which kind of makes sense. Sometimes I'm taking a picture, like, ooh, that skyline looks so cool at dusk, and I'm in traffic anyway. Let me whip up my phone. I'm taking pictures. I'm looking at pictures. A lot of times I'm flipping through my phone trying to find one specific song because my kids are taking turn picking songs so they don't, go at each other for the entire trip. So, yeah, I think I'm among the worst. I appreciate all you people paying extra attention and not hitting me while I'm doing terrible driving. But what about you? Jim in Waco, you're on WBAP. What do you think about this driver survey?
Well, I just wanted to, you kind of reminded me of way back when I was commuting out of state for work. And so my first state from Texas was Missouri. So in the commute, I was going to identify that people from Arkansas like to drive in the left lane and match the speed of traffic next to them. And in Missouri.
Yeah. No, that's funny. I was laughing at you.
Oh, okay. So, Missouri, they had their ways of driving, little tidbits, so that and then Tennessee, they had, you could be the last one to stop at a four-way stop sign, be the first one to go. I mean, I guess they're over polite. But so when I got to Tennessee, I was kind of like, hey, I need to write a book on driving habits of other states. And then she made it back to Texas and drive around in Texas, and then I was like, well, they're just as bad here. So, I'd probably...
Well, okay. It's been my experience that Dallas isn't the worst. Dallas is among the best drivers. Where would you rank us?
Oh, Dallas? I don't live in Dallas now. I haven't lived there for a while. I'm in the Waco area now. But, so, I mean, I drive the interstates. I really can't complain. I leave at 3:30 in the morning to go to work. So I avoid all the traffic as much as possible.
So who has the worst then? Jim and Waco, worst drivers that you experience?
I'd say Missouri.
Missouri's the worst?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. People from Missouri, go ahead and get defensive if you have any problems taking it up with Jim and Waco. Thank you very much, sir. No, it's been my experience. Thank you. I think the worst drivers I might have saw were New York City, but it's so hard to compare because they don't pay attention to the lines or anything in the road. Like when you're in if three cars fit across the street, there's going to be three cars in the street, even though there's just one stripe in the middle and it's supposed to be two. Like they don't care. They don't care. But then on the other hand, I also saw my taxi or my Uber actually bump into people, and they didn't even stop and get each other's information. They're like, we traded a little paint. It's like a NASCAR race over there. They didn't care. I thought that was pretty cool. But no, Dallas drivers, do not accept the slander. You are definitely not the worst drivers in the world. I'm defending you, the drivers, the commuters, and DFW. I think we are fantastic drivers here, despite what you see in the comment section on so many of these stories online and on your Twitter feed and on your Facebook. And actually, from where I lived, I think this might be the best drivers I've ever encountered. Gene in Willow Park, you're on WBAP. What do you think about drivers in North Texas?
Well, first, thanks for taking my call, and I think most of them are pretty good. There's a few idiots. But let me tell you, the single worst place to drive in this country is Washington, D.C., because most of those
There's another vote
from there. Pardon me?
No. Actually, I think behind the scenes, I alluded to that in a previous segment, but also the guy that's engineering the remote out here used to live in the D.C. area. And when I went to break, he was like, no, I think D.C. is the worst.
Yeah, it is. We don't have to go there. I can tell you how you know where the worst place the drivers are on the planet. When I moved, the Air Force moved me to Bossier City at one point, and the insurance company canceled my policy.
Yeah, because the drivers are so damn bad there.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think that's like the whole state of Louisiana has that problem. I lived there for a little bit, too.
Okay, well, it was mostly the northwest part when I was there, but I think mostly around here, you got a bunch of people who are considerate. Most of them are from Texas, I think. So there you go.
Are you an above-average driver?
Above average. Specifically, I will say I drive fast. I do not drive reckless.
That's a nice dodge, but I'll take it. Thank you very much, Gene in Willow Park. Let me tell you what I do notice. Thank you very much for your call. So I'm driving in from Bug Tussle today, and you're going to think I'm making this story up, but I actually had to write it down in my phone because it's so crazy. So I'm coming in, and like not all the signs are in perfect repair from Bug Tussle, between Bug Tussle and Dallas. So there was one, I was about to go under a bridge on I-20, and I think it was like by Wills Point or something. And the top screw of the sign had come off, and it had flipped over. Now, what it was one of those signs that tell you how tall the bridge is. So if it's upright, check this out. I want you to do this. Can you do this math in your head? The bridge is 16 feet, 6 inches, and that's what the sign said when it was upright. When it flips over, then the numbers change spots. The 6 becomes a 9, the other 6 becomes a 9, and the 1 still looks like a 1. So if you ignore like the tick marks and you just read it from left to right, it looks like 9 feet, 91 inches. Now do the math. 12 inches in a foot. What distance is that? It's almost the exact same distance. It's off by 1 inch. 9 feet, 91 inches is just 1 inch more than 16 feet and 6 inches, which means the sign is correct whether it's upside down or right side up. Now, this is what I'm thinking about when I'm driving. I'm not thinking about matching the speed of the guy in front of me, or if anyone's trying to yield, or if I'm piling up the traffic behind me because I'm making a wall with the guy in the lane next to me. I'm in my head just doing stupid 8th grade pre-algebra to see if that sign still means the same thing upside down or not. And I was so tickled to find out I was right. I don't know what people were doing around me. I wasn't caring. I was thinking about, I guess I'm going to stop at Buc-ee's because I got to go. Like, that's what's on my mind. I'm a thoughtless driver. I try not to be. I don't get in a lot of wrecks either. I'm just saying I'm not a great driver. Lee in Dallas, you're on WBAP. What do you think about driving in Dallas?
I think it's terrible. It's absolutely awful. There's no rules of the road. People tailgate each other. If you're driving down 635 with solid white lines, everybody's cutting in front of them. The tailgating's unbelievable. When I used to live in Dallas 33 years ago, I was so impressed with how, if you broke down, people would fight over who was going to get you to the gas station, who was going to fix your flat. Now, if you pull over and your car is in bad shape, I mean, they don't want to call anybody for you. They want to, give me some money and I'll help you. I was so shocked at the amount of driving going on in Dallas these days. The rules of the road do not apply in Dallas. It's absolutely terrible here.
See, now, talking to you is like, I have the same thing with Miss Parker, which is probably speaks well of you and not so well of me. But in this situation, I don't know. She gets real mad at tailgaters, too. Now, I don't. You know why? Because I'm not paying attention. I'm looking at the stupid upside-down road sign. I'm laughing at the Buc-ee's.
I'm one of the drivers. I remember when I was 18 when I had a hot Charger, and people were always going, Lee, hit it. I'm like, no, you hit it, because I'm paying the insurance. And back in 1968, there was no way that I was going to yell out another $30 because some moron wanted to see my car go crashing through traffic. I just, I am a fanatical, absolutely fanatical, careful driver. I keep my distance.
All right.
People cut in front of me all the time in Dallas. Drives me nuts.
Well, You won me over. This is one of the good drivers. Thank you very much, Lee in Dallas. Thank you for accommodating and tolerating the rest of us drivers who aren't really paying that good of attention.
The James Show Podcast.
So there's a lot of important cases in front of the Supreme Court, but one that's getting a lot of attention has to do with birthright citizenship. Susha Modi, an immigration expert, back on the James Show. Welcome back, Susha. Good to have you back on the show. And let's talk about this.
Thanks, James.
As a guy who helps people through the immigration process, what do y'all see in the Supreme Court case?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Happy to be here. In terms of the Supreme Court case, in fact, I was just on Fox News a few days ago about it. I mean, I think it's very likely going to be deemed unconstitutional. President Trump's executive order, meaning birthright citizenship, the individuals that are born here are going to be deemed to be U.S. citizens. The main reason why is past precedent. So the way the Supreme Court, really decides cases is what is their past cases done to interpret the law in the 14th Amendment. And there's some cases that are pretty on point on this issue. And I think they're going to likely rule, even with the conservative court, that it's President Trump's executive order was unconstitutional.
So what do they say about the I know the president's claim is that the 14th Amendment only applied to former slaves and wasn't intended for the children of illegal immigrants.
Yeah, that is their claim. It's a good point. But, historically speaking, the way the Supreme Court has reviewed it, that's not the way they view it. I mean, just to take a step back, in terms of the 14th Amendment, it's for, all individuals who are naturalized or born in the U.S., subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are U.S. citizens. So then really the case law turns on to what is subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Right.
And the way the Supreme Court has ruled, and then the way the Supreme Court has ruled, past cases on it, one of the first cases on this issue is called the ARC case. And that was for only 30 years after the 14th Amendment. So to put this in context, the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868. So in 1898, just 30 years after that, the Supreme Court had actually heard a similar case, the ARC case. And there, historically, what the U.S. was dealing with was the Chinese Exclusion Act. So where there was a lot of discrimination against Chinese immigrants and didn't allow them, there's an act passed, didn't allow them to come in the U.S., et cetera. And what had gone up to the Supreme Court was an individual born here from Chinese parents. And it went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ended up saying that individual is still a U.S. citizen. Now, one slight distinction is the parents then were permanent residents, so not undocumented. But the reason the case is so important is because the Supreme Court did not make that difference. They just said only in very limited circumstances, so that principle of Joe Solis, like meaning you're born here, you're a U.S. citizen, only in like limited circumstances, like if we had a hostile invasion or if you're the child of diplomats, for example, are you not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Everybody else that's born here, are U.S. citizens, is basically what the Supreme Court said back then. And that was so close to the time frame when the 14th Amendment was passed. And that's what I think the Supreme Court is going to look back on its own precedents, and very likely a huge majority is going to find, if not all of them, is going to find that President Trump's executive order was unconstitutional.
Well, Susha Modi, you're an immigration lawyer. Do you think the people who wrote the 14th Amendment intended for it to apply to illegal immigrants, the children of illegal immigrants?
Yeah, I do. I think it is very limited to who it wouldn't apply to. And the Chinese Exclusion Act is a perfect example. Even with all the hate against Chinese immigrants back then, and the exclusion and discrimination, they were still found in those circumstances. So that the Supreme Court didn't limit it otherwise, unless in like very extreme circumstances. So I think you're going to find that the Supreme Court, when they do rule on it, on the merits. So there's actually two issues. One is on whether district courts have like the power for injunctions. You might see a more divided court for that. But the actual merits of the case, of this case, I think you're going to find that principle of being born on U.S. soil is going to remain.
Susha, you're an immigration attorney here in Texas. What are you telling your clients who are giving you calls saying, should I be worried about this? The legal immigrants.
Yeah, well, you remember, I mean, if they're born here, they've been recognized to be a U.S. citizen, right? And the other issue is, let's give the other scenario. Again, I think it's highly unlikely, but let's give that scenario a look here. If they're not, if the court rules they're not going to be a U.S. citizen, then you're going to have all kinds of issues. Because if they're born here, they don't have a citizenship of another country. So would they be stateless? And if they're stateless, we can't deport them somewhere anyway.
Well,
so
they would be subject to the
issue.
jurisdiction of their parents when they were born, like the diplomats would, or like John McCain was, or Rafael Cruz.
No, the home countries usually don't accept that. They're not going to accept someone that's not a citizen of their country either. So then you're going to have issues of not even practically speaking being able to deport them to any country.
They'll be like Tom Hanks in The Terminal. Remember The Terminal when he didn't have a country anymore and he just had to live in the airport?
I didn't actually see that movie. I'm going to have to.
You're an immigration lawyer. You would love that. That's a movie aimed at immigration lawyers. Susha, that's a good point, though. What if they don't get accepted by their parents' home country and they're stateless? That's not something that's being discussed yet, but we'll have to have you back on after the ruling here. When are we going to find out the answer to this? Is this one of the things they announce in like October or something?
It's a great question. Honestly, the Supreme Court can announce it whenever they want. As of now, there's still an injunction, so that's another part that the Supreme Court may answer. But as of right now, that the executive order is put on hold, so I don't think they're in a rush to necessarily answer it. But this was a case that was expedited on their docket. So,
all right.
Short question is, we don't know. They can do it whenever they want.
Well, Susham, I disagree with you, but it was a great conversation. I appreciate you being on the show again.